All right, you bunch of yahoos, strap yourselves in for another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity.
In other words, shut up, sit up, and pay attention. And here we go. And welcome back to another episode of Toxic Masculinity. We're here to offer up our political satire approach and viewpoints of any national or international topic that may be at hand, but won't let a few facts get in the way of a good old-fashioned story. We are two crotchety old men that like to speak the blunt truth. We're here to entertain, offend, and defend anyone and everyone that we choose to do so. We're just a couple crotchety old farts that have a bad habit of speaking the truth, but won't let a few facts get in the way of a good old-fashioned story. We are a couple Americans that believe in America. If this is not for you, then I suggest you change the channel now. I really kind of screwed up a lot on that one, but that's why
that was perfect.
But see, I'm trying to read it. I'm trying to read it in the dark here right now, and I think it's kind of like I almost see like a flashlight and doing like shadow puppets against the wall here right now.
That was good. I thought it was great. Yeah, that's good.
We were all mesmerized, Mr. Severn.
Yeah, well, I get that. Don, I can still mesmerize you with that
Holy
one.
Whoa. Where'd you go?
What?
Oh. So, yeah. All right. So on that note, now would you like to introduce our guest?
This is Mr. B.J. Baldwin. He's a world champion truck driver, Baja racer, everything that's just got wheels, he can drive it. And if it's got dirt, he'll run over it.
Yeah. Well, again, what intrigued me is one of the things that Don opens up there with is that he says about a professional truck driver. I mean, you actually drive truck as well?
No. Race trucks.
I race
race trucks.
So I run
trophy trucks.
I run an unlimited production trophy truck. I do long distance endurance racing like Baja 1000, Vegas to Reno, Dakar. Stuff like that. So I've been
those
in competitive
kind of
motorsports.
things take great. I mean, those are long races. A great deal of endurance, a lot of concentration for a lot of time that you got to be concentrated because the terrain is always changing, and you got to change up there with it. Weather's going to be changing on you as well. So, no, that's
not on the desert. It's hot. It's just plain hot.
No, I mean
hot
primary.
Gravel.
What would be like primary function of my vehicle is different than any other form of motorsport. So like you have obviously all race cars will start with a very big budget, but they're all geared towards one thing: accelerating well, decelerating well, and changing direction well. And my race truck doesn't do any of that. What's so nice about my form of motorsports I love so much is it doesn't really have to slow down for anything. So I go through like 3 or 4 foot bumps at 118 miles an hour. Like if you had like a Raptor, that's like the pinnacle of production vehicles that you can just go buy on the showroom floor. If you went and got that and drove it down my test track, you'd probably only be able to go like 25, 26, 27 miles an hour before it exploded, and my truck's designed to navigate that terrain at a very high rate of speed for very long periods of time.
What's your average speed on those races?
Well, it depends. I mean, some sections, very few sections, am I like just trying not to drag the bottom of the truck around,
right,
on the ground. Those are very short-term events. Most of it, I'm going anywhere from 50 to 110 over like big bumps, different levels of terrain. And then some of the higher speed stuff. My truck's top speed right now, best number I've seen on GPS is 153 miles an hour, which is pretty good for something that's
pussy.
It's pretty good for something that doesn't have very good aerodynamics.
Well, yeah, but going across bumps at that speed, I mean, you got to have one hell of a suspension system on that thing there too.
Yeah, it's a lot of innovation, a lot of development in suspension. Not only the angle of approach on the trailing arms and the upper and lower uprights and the upper and lower A-arms up front, but also keeping the thing stable and straight and just getting it to run through the bumps, better than any other truck. Of course, everybody there's a lot of very well developed teams there with great drivers. So the competition is really, really good. And I'm blessed and very thankful to be able to put myself in the position where I can race against the best in the world.
Yeah. Well, but BJ, I'm just curious again, like, again, suspension on your truck is one thing, but what about like the seat that you sit in? Is there something special about it? Because I'm thinking again, the way that your truck is going to be jarring around. Suspension is one thing, but then you got your human body suspension that's being jarred around.
Dan's got a toilet seat in his truck,
Yeah. So like think of like monster trucks, right? So you have a monster truck with big 55-inch tires that weigh 1,500 pounds each. The entire system weighs 10,000 pounds. So in suspension, there's sprung weight and unsprung weight. So ideally, you'd want the least amount of unsprung weight as possible. So the suspension is doing most of the work instead of the deflection in the tire where it's, squishy and stuff. You don't have the mass that's traveling up to try and soak up a bump. So, I mean, you guys have seen, monster trucks. If they go over like a K-rail or something like that at 20 miles an hour, they'll bounce, 20 feet off the ground, depending on how fast they're hitting stuff like that. My truck, instead of the tires weighing 1,500 pounds, they weigh about 128 pounds, tire and wheel combo. So it has, and it weighs about 7,000 pounds, but the unsprung weight, like the tire, is a lot better. The unsprung weight is a lot better with my truck versus like a monster truck. And so back to what we were saying about the seat, monster trucks are terrible. They are terrible, like as it relates to ride quality. And their seat is like solid aluminum with like a little piece of fabric. So if you're in the seat, yeah, it sounds like it'd be really rough. But if you're in the seat and ratcheted down with your seatbelts very well, if you're part of the system, if you're part of the vehicle, it helps quite a bit. So your spine doesn't bounce up and down on the seat. Like if you land, the chassis or the whole truck is bouncing up. And then if you had some room in your seat, the truck's not smashing you up and put a bunch of compression on your vertebrae. My truck's a lot like that as it relates to the seat. The seat's a carbon fiber. I used to use a Sparkle. I don't know what my team leader has on. I don't know what my prep guy's running as it relates to a seat for me, the brand, but it's a carbon fiber seat and it's got like that much fabric. It rides a lot better than you might think.
Yeah.
Because I have to be in it for anywhere from 4 to 20 hours.
What kind of air pressure are you running on them tires?
It depends on the situation. Depends on the course, and that's kind of a factor that we adjust throughout the season. If it's a race like Laughlin where the terrain's moist, it's a little bit softer. We usually run a little bit less pressure. We'll run 31 to 33, somewhere in there, depending on how it's reacting. We don't want the tire to roll over on itself and catch the truck and make it unstable. And in some of the rougher races, like San Felipe's a lot of big bumps, and it's a lot more high speed than Laughlin. We run close to 39 pounds of pressure in it. We go up a little bit because, we don't want the deflection in the tire, like the sidewall, to meet the rim and cut the tire.
Yeah, right.
So,
well, again, to keep you part of that system, then you don't have a normal seat belt. You've got to have like probably both shoulder harnesses, a seat belt. I mean, but more than that.
Let me see. It's 1, 2, 3.
They don't have twine like you used to have back on the farm there, Dan.
Okay, at that point in time, I wanted to be thrown free of the vehicle. Okay, didn't wear nothing. Okay, seatbelts came in, after the fact.
Yeah, it's a 5-point system. So I have shoulder harnesses that go down here to my lap, and then I got a lap belt that clicks in that goes around my hips, and then I got like a crotch strap in between that and a sternum strap, so my sternum doesn't separate if we hit something like really, really hard. And then I also have a tether on my helmet. So, think of like a can opener. Like if you got somebody in guard, or you're in somebody's guard and you pull up on the head, it's going to pop all your vertebrae, right? Just to relate this to like MMA, when I have a significant impact, it's how Dale Earnhardt died. To prevent basilar skull fracture, I wear a system over my clavicle and over a little bit of my back that attaches to the helmet, and it's held down by the seatbelt, so that if I hit something really hard with the front of the truck, whether it be, most of the time it's from indoing the truck, I get to where I hit a limiting place in the helmet, so the tethers stop my head from traveling more than like this, so I don't get unplugged and have basilar skull fracture, which is how Dale Earnhardt died.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like in football, where a lot of them that they'd have that little net guard, except yours is in the front versus being in the backside.
Yeah, it's kind of attached to the sides. You'd have to see it to understand it, but it's helped me since the development of that system. Since I started running that system, because I didn't run it for a really long time. I thought it was like restrictive, but when I started running it, I noticed like if I had like a very big impact, which luckily I haven't had too many in my career, I noticed that I wouldn't have that soreness in my neck. You have to hit something really hard to have basilar skull fracture, but it protects you all the way around. Sure. Really, our number one threat is, if we roll over, if we have a crash and there's fire, we don't have any, course workers that can run to our aid with a fire extinguisher and get the fire put out. We have to get out of the truck immediately because the pits are 50 miles apart. It's a small race course would be 250-mile loop. So the pits are, the pits can be 100 miles apart in Baja. So you don't have any outside assistance from any safety crew.
That's kind of a scary situation right there. I mean, it's I can't even imagine being out in the middle of the desert like that, and then all of a sudden have something happen, and you're like going, help.
Yeah,
there's no one going to be there anytime soon. You better be doing it yourself.
Yeah, no, it gets scary when stuff goes wrong and you're all by yourself. It's not like circle track racing where everybody, all the safety crews like available to intercept whatever trouble that you might have from an injury standpoint and danger standpoint. That's kind of
they're always 100 yards away.
Yeah, they're 100 yards away.
What about if you're out on a big open track like that? What about wildlife? How many strange encounters have you had with wildlife?
How many animals have I killed?
Well, yeah, I guess that's one way of it. Put how many notches do you have on your hood?
Occasionally rabbits will, run out. That's very rare because the thing is so loud, that any kind of wildlife kind of stays away from the path that this thing's going because it's very loud. They hear it coming from miles away. I think the only thing I've never, the hazard is probably hitting a cow because a cow is like a small car. If you hit a cow at high speed, then that could be dangerous. I've had a couple of friends that have hit cows at high speed and they got messed up. You basically have 300 pounds of steak hitting your face, because it just cuts through them like a knife. But luckily I haven't hit a cow. I almost hit two horses a few years back. I was going to go pass a fellow competitor, Cameron Steele, a good friend of mine. And I thought he was slowing down to let me go around because I had already tagged him. And he was slowing down for these horses, and then he'd take off. If I could do it over again, I'd kill both the horses and get around them.
So he didn't say, hey, there's horses.
Yeah, no. It was a very dynamic environment with a lot of stuff going on. We were both going pretty fast, but he was slowing down for the horses instead of slowing down for me, and I didn't know that at the time. I was taking my time to try and get around him, and he took off.
How many times you been on fire?
Like bullshit fires like 10 times, like a little electrical thing where it's not like that big a deal. Yeah. I've had some fires in the pre-runner before the vehicle that we run before a race. We'll run the course on that, and then we'll get in the race truck on race day. But usually I don't have fire that I run into that much. I have had one very big fire. I probably had 4 pretty decent sized fires where it was an emergency to get out. One started in the engine bay when an oil line came off when in a mid-engine truck. So it was right behind us. I had to get the thing slowed down and pull over and get out. That was fine. And then I had one where a shock came apart and the oil hit the exhaust manifold and ignited, and flames were coming through the high pressure alleviation ducts in the hood into the cab because we don't have a windshield; it just comes right in. And then I actually had that happen twice. And then I had a fire where I was being refueled at a fuel pit, and the fresh air pump, that's an electric motor, it was outside near the engine bay, or like above the engine bay. Some reserve fuel got on top of it and ignited, and then both my my pit guys actually pulled the tank out really fast, like in a panic, and it spilled like 8 or 9 more gallons into the engine bay in this mid-engine car. And I was engulfed in flames. That was a long time ago, but it was a Class 1 car, and my dad actually saved my life because he got me out of the car. Yeah, he had his fire suit and helmet on. He was all protected, and he pulled me out of the car. And I was pretty big back then. I was like 270 pounds, a little bit chubbier than I am now. But the fire that started in the fresh air pump blew all the hot air into my helmet, hot air ash, burnt plastic, burnt rubber, like burning straw smells like. I got like a bunch of that. It's like burning 100 straws in your face. It was terrible. And I got all my belts out, all my belts off, and then dropped the window net to get out of the window at the driver's side. And everything turned like getting choked out. Everything started to close in on you, start changing colors. Everything was kind of black and white. It happened really, really fast. And I was paralyzed. I couldn't move, and I just saw flames like engulfing me. And my dad, that was when I was very young. I think I was like, I think I was 21 or 22. My dad got me out right as that was happening, and because he was supposed to navigate for me in that particular event. He was just getting introduced into racing. I had already done it for quite some time, and he pulled me out. By the way, he's in no shape to pull out a 270-pound man,
yeah, but
unless it's his son.
That's whole different. That's my kid in there. Yeah, that's a whole different motivating factor right there. That's when the atomic juice kicks in and the incredible things happen.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. As soon as he pulled me out, I knew for sure I wasn't an unplanned pregnancy. So I felt the love, definitely. He got me out. And he was completely consumed with expending all of his energy, because it's very difficult to get out of there on your own, like getting a lifeless body out of there, which I wasn't like lifeless, but I could not function anything. I didn't have any muscle function to help assist. So he's dragging, 270 pounds of weight out of the car, did it very quickly. And then I fell on top of him because he was completely consumed in expending all his energy to get me out. And then I regained consciousness, and then I picked him up, and 15 gallons of race fuel, 118 octane leaded late model plus is right there, like 3 feet away from us, completely on flames. So I grabbed him and brought him to safety. We saved each other. Wow. He still gets all the cred though.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty incredible story right there. And that's people be surprised when something like that happens. The adrenaline that kicks in makes you so powerful. When they talk about women tearing car doors off to get their babies and stuff like that, and they're like, it's impossible. I go, no, you don't understand what the adrenaline can do for you. I mean, look at Mr. Frye there, some of the different contests that he's been in there. The normal man would have simply laid on down, but he just plays rock'em sock'em robots right back.
I was just talking about that fight on my IG story. I was bragging about getting to come down here and talk to you guys. Man, that's such a legendary scenario. I mean, how long were you guys, bolted up like this and smashed on each other?
Forever.
It felt like forever. was like 30 or 40 seconds or something like that, more longer.
Yeah.
Fucking longer than that.
Yeah.
It'd been a minute since I seen it, but I remember that. I was like, man, that is the most insane thing where you guys are trading punches and blocking each other's punch with your face. You know?
Yeah, I know. I've showed that to different people. They kept thinking, no, there's no way that they went that long. You somehow just kept adding to this or rewind it or something like that. Go, no,
Yeah.
no. You Google this anytime you want to, and you just see watching just two men who got machismo happening right now, and they're playing a game of chicken, and the name of the game is as they're socking them in the face, like, going, I'm gonna keep socking your face, you son of a gun, you, until you give. And the other guy's like, oh, no, I'm not gonna give. I'm gonna keep socking you right back in the face until you give.
Yeah.
And who won? I mean,
That's got to be the most viral.
Anyone who watched that fight, they witnessed something that they'll never witness ever
Never again.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Except,
you guys are a different breed.
I get to brag about Don because he hasn't been in just in one match like that. He's been in multiple matches like that against like Ken Shamrock. He's been in a match like that against the one heavyweight. Oh, actually, a couple different heavyweights from Japan and stuff like that. And so.
Where they put on the bottom of the contract, we do not test for PEDs. What do you think of that? Now, maybe you guys know more than me. I just saw on social media that that UFC's contract expired with USADA, and I guess they're not.
Good.
Yeah, are they not doing that anymore?
I don't know. I hope they told them to go fuck themselves.
Right? Do you know anything about that, Dan?
No. Nope. I'm not.
Yeah,
didn't hear anything about
I saw something. I'll give you a quick debrief. I saw something on IG, on Instagram, about UFC's contract expiring with USADA. Good. Now, it's one thing to make sure fighters are clean, or to have the idea to make sure fighters are clean, but they're in like fantasy land because it's just ensuring the guys that have more money can cheat better. Right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You guys know more.
I guess they pounded on some guys' doors at 5 o'clock in the morning, you know?
Yeah, a lot of scenarios. I've heard a lot of scenarios with that. I think Israel Adesanya had a scenario I think that was the last one I heard where he had a fight that day and they came in at 6 o'clock. Right. Rest and recovery is so important for any kind of physical activity, let alone MMA fighting. And I don't know what's your guys' resting heart rate and blood pressure when you guys were fighting? It was probably way higher than the guys now.
Yeah, I have no idea.
300, something gnarly. Because you guys were the pioneers, and now you gave them the blueprint. So I think there's more calmness in today's mixed martial arts than there was when you guys were fighting. It seems like, the sport is ever changing and ever changing. You see new techniques all the time. It like never ends. I would think that they're much calmer than you guys were in your fights.
No, getting punched in the face, still getting punched in the face.
It is, you think?
Yeah.
I actually think that was pretty common. I do remember that sometimes when they checked my my pulse rate and stuff like that, they were actually shocked as to how low it was.
Oh,
and
really?
They check it a couple of times, and they're like even bringing on another doctor to go check this for me. And I go, dude, yours is so low, you ought to be asleep right now. But again, that's anyone in competition, you got to. It's how you do your different type of breathing exercises, things of that nature, but then also mental imagery and things of that nature. There's so many different things that you can do to either calm yourself or prep yourself to be ready to do what you have to do.
Yeah, now I'm kind of getting what not that to compare my sport to yours, but just that two different athletic activities with world champions. I'm like that when like the night before I don't sleep very well before a race. I don't feel very good the day of a race until I get in the truck. And when I get in the truck, I kind of remember who I am, and then I'm like super calm. Like I'm gonna fuck everybody up. I'm gonna drive over these guys' hoods. Like I feel like really calm and that I'm going to do very well because I remember what I'm capable of. Yeah. Was it kind of like that in fighting?
Right. It just depends on if you trained hard enough. That was my big thing. Because in college wrestling, I would just show up to the workouts. I wouldn't do anything extra. Wouldn't run. I wouldn't lift weights. Wouldn't nothing extra. Just show up in the afternoon, workout, and that was it. And you know, it's disgusting actually. To do something that half-ass.
You had moments like that where you look back on on your effort and you're like, why didn't I do this?
Right.
This, and yeah, I'm going through that part in my career as well, where I was like, man, 10 years ago, I'm like ashamed of my preparedness for events, 10 years ago, whereas like, I'm a little bit older now. I'm 44 and a half. And I'm trying to travel through time, like biologically, by taking a lot better care of myself and lifting weights and eating really good and, staying lean and having a vehicle in terms of my biological vehicle, being able to have more attention, more focus, last longer, not get tired. Not that I ever got tired. I've always had better endurance than most of the other drivers, but something that is higher performing than it was earlier in my career. So I'm taking better care of myself.
What would you say is like the average age range in, this type of racing?
Well, that's what's awesome about this form of racing. There's guys that race that are 65 years old.
Really?
And there's guys that race that are, 20, 25. And, eventually, when you get up past like 55 or 65, there's not a lot of, there's athletic activity, happening in the truck because it is an endurance race and you put a lot of effort in your legs. You got to make sure your joints are good, but really a lot of it is focus. So there are like my mentor is Larry Ragland. He actually lives out here in Arizona and in Deer Valley. And he's a very good friend of mine. He's 80 years old and he just won the NOR 1000 last year. He takes really good care of himself. He's a pillhead. He takes like 60 vitamins for breakfast and 60 vitamins for dinner and eats very clean. I say pillhead jokingly because he actually does take a ton of pills for vitamins and for human performance,
Sure.
So he's taken really, really good care of himself and he's still in really good shape. He had his 80th birthday in December. He told me I was on the phone with him and I was like, yeah, you wouldn't have liked it. You wouldn't have been proud of me. I did 80 push-ups and, they weren't like super good. They weren't like super clean, but, I knocked them out how I could. I'm like, bro, you're 80 years old and you're doing push-ups for your 80th birthday. There's not too many guys that are 80 years old that are going to do that. So I kind of shadow my physical and biological development after him so I can have the longest career that I could possibly have. Because I'm very, very fortunate to be able to do what I've always loved. I've loved it since I was a kid. All forms of motorsports, but off-road racing.
So I think growing up you had anything that could be motorized. You had it at one point in time. You had probably little dirt bikes, but you probably had I don't know what else that I could say that you would have been driving other than a dirt bike prior to going to other types of vehicles.
Yeah, I had a lot of off-road racing. It's not like any other form of motorsports, like road racing or anything, where you can get in a go-kart. Like you can get in like a shifter cart that will go 100 miles an hour, 0 to 100 to back down to 0 in 7 seconds. And it replicates something that is high performing at a lower rate of speed. Of course, these are $15,000 go-karts. It will replicate certain behavior characteristics of like Formula One, NASCAR, road racing, SCCA, stuff like that. The closest that we can get to that in our sport is getting reps on a dirt bike or a four-wheeler or a UTV. They didn't have UTVs when I started racing. They had like Honda Pilots. Do you remember Honda Pilots? They're like a single seat thing. That was something that maybe you can have a system that you can get repetitions in terms of time that you get off road. similar to shadow boxing or, training, going in on singles or jiu-jitsu, any kind of takedowns, stuff like that you might do or Don might do. Dirt bikes definitely helped me make the transition into off-road racing because I was very, very familiar with the terrain, very familiar with dodging rocks because you can hit a rock in a truck at 100 miles an hour. If you hit a rock on a dirt bike at like 65, you're going to disappear.
Oh yeah. No. It's again, that's you're talking about two different things for safety or having metal wrapped around you that's protecting you.
Yes, and they're
So
they're very strong. Like,
I still can't imagine with all the jarring. Do you have like your exercise program and your diet aspect? I mean, I know that's one part, but what about um, do you see like a chiropractor on any kind of like a regular basis? Do you have to get your back put back into alignment? Are you big into like massage therapy or what helps to get the kinks out after you're done? Jumping into a hot tub jacuzzi or something like that? And
well, shockingly enough, it's never like anybody has imagined. So, like the people I've taken for rides. I've been able to take a few people for rides during like test sessions where we're doing suspension development, powertrain development. When I've taken people for rides, they're never scared. They're like so past scared, they're like confused. They don't understand why it's able to do this stuff that it does terms of going through big bumps and not being able to feel much. You get shaken around for sure, but you're getting shaken around like you would in a regular truck going 15 miles an hour, but you're going 115 miles an hour, so the suspension's really good.
Yeah, trust me, just drive it into Don's place. It's an experience of all these. You go up the hill, it's like do. It's like, oh, geez, well, Pete, when they go take a grader down this road?
I noticed that about some parts of Arizona, like the pavement and the terrain and all the gaps in the road and the sealing, the sealant on the road. It's not like a very high quality surface.
No, not at all.
You get some wheel movement in there, things bouncing all over the place a little bit.
No, I just came back.
BJ, the BJ. What's funny thing about like it's today? I mean, if you look anywhere you travel today, there are orange barrels and orange cones everywhere. I always tell people when they start talking to me about business and they're going into all these different types that we should be doing this, we should be doing that. I go, no, we want to be in the orange barrel and orange cones because they're everywhere. No one's working, but those cones and barrels are everywhere. Every state I go through.
It's like that in Vegas too. As a matter of fact, I just got a ticket this morning for doing some gangster shit in between cones. I was trying to get. I got a ticket this morning. I was taking my son to school, and I drive a Dodge truck, the one with the big motor, and it's got the Hellcat 700 horsepower thing, whatever. So yeah, it moves pretty good.
Wait! I haven't heard about this. I've seen the Shelby Ford truck.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the Hellcat truck.
Yeah, they call it a TRX or T-Rex. It's supposed to be a direct competitor to the Raptor.
Yeah.
And it's...
How many horses?
It's 704 or 5 or something like that. So it's the basic, Charger engine. I think it's 346 cubic inches.
Rogan's truck's got like 900.
Yeah, so it's the exact same truck as Rogan's, except he's got a bigger pump on his. He's got a bigger supercharger on his. Yeah. I think he's got like a 4-liter supercharger. Mine comes stock with, I think it's like a 2.6-liter supercharger. I'm sure we'll get hammered in the comments. Everybody will tell me I'm stupid, but it's somewhere around 2.4 to 2.6 liters of displacement for this particular supercharger. So, they make the good motor that's not supercharged. I think this is the same platform. It makes 470 horsepower. And then when they put the supercharger on it and have stronger connecting rods and forged pistons and a good rotating assembly, it makes about 700. Wow. So it runs pretty good.
That's still stock, right?
Yeah, it's bone stock. Still for like something that's 6,200 pounds.
What is yours? Have you upped yours?
Have I? No. I'm talking about the weight. Trucks are heavy, and you're turning.
No. I'm saying, have you upped your horsepower?
Oh no. I usually keep it stock because like I want to be like Rogan's won't do this.
Yeah.
He'll probably text me later and say, "Fuck, you talking shit about my truck," or DM me. No, but his makes 1,000 horsepower.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of power.
Yeah.
So you can't really lean on that system, like you can a stock one, because a stock one from the manufacturer, whether a Corvette or Ferrari or Lamborghini or any kind of high performance, Hellcat or anything like that, the manufacturer design them. They don't want them to come back for maintenance work. So like a turbo Porsche, it makes 580 horsepower. If you just program the computer on board and increase the boost and change the fuel curve and the timing, so it's a little bit more of an aggressive tune in the thing, it'll go from 580 to like 750. So, but you can't, like, when they're built like that, you can't be in Montana when it's 10 below,
right,
and fire it up and light all 4 tires down the street. It'll throw all the oil lines off of it. It's scar the cylinders, and it will hurt the motor significantly if you do that without a proper heat cycle. Like my truck, to heat cycle it, I start it, I get the RPM at like 2,200 RPM. I let it idle for about 5 minutes, and then oil temp gets to a certain temp, and then water temp gets to a certain temp, and then the oil temp gets to above 140 degrees, and then I rev it a little bit, and then I run the gear set. I'll drive it down the road like really smoothly, and then get the brakes warmed up and stuff like that, because it's a very, very high performing motor. And you got to get everything to the appropriate temperature for everything to get seated and for it to live. If I fired my truck up right now and just hit the gas, it'd just blow the motor up. If it wasn't warm. If it's warm, obviously I can use all 1,100 horsepower. But production vehicles, they have a certain amount of thought process as it relates to the development of whatever performance vehicle that is, so that it can be abused to a certain extent and it's not going to blow up. Like Rogan's truck makes 1,000 horsepower. I'm sure if you fire that thing up a couple times and just light the tires up when it's cold, I'm sure it'll bend the rods in it or something. Something will fail, because you're asking more of the original platform.
So how long does it take to warm up the engine properly then?
In my race truck, it takes about 12 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That includes, 4 minutes of heat cycling the brake rotors, the gear set, the transmission, and get a little bit of fluid moving through the shocks. With like a regular truck, it's 2 minutes.
It's just sitting there idling, or you got to do more to it?
Well, with the regular truck, you just, if it's a high performance like my truck, you just start it up and to just go drive. It's not, unless you lean on it really hard, like max throttle input within 30 seconds of firing it, then you'll start to have problems if it's a high performance vehicle. But like I was saying, with original manufacturer equipment, you can be more abusive on the vehicle without having it properly heat cycled into its operating temperature, and it's not going to hurt it. They just, they dial the power down a little bit. Like originally, I'm sure with Rogan's truck, under proper heat cycling, where everything's up to temperature, water, coolant pressure, oil temperature, ring gear, all that stuff. I'm sure it was designed, if it was at that temperature, you could beat on it all day long, making, I think his probably makes like 15 or 16 pounds of boost from the supercharger. Mm-hmm. And from the factory, they make like 11 pounds of boost. They still make 700 horsepower. So if you have something that's strung out that much, making a bunch of pressure in the supercharger, you kind of got to be a little bit nicer to it, if that makes sense. Otherwise, you might have some kind of problem.
All right, here, BJ, what do you drive? What is your normal everyday vehicles that you drive to go to the local Circle K or to take the kids, drop them off to school? What is the regular vehicle that you
He's an
drive there?
Abrams tank.
Yeah, it was tank. No, what I drive every day right now is the Dodge T-Rex. You know, most of my personal vehicles have made a lot of power. I've also got a Porsche, a 901.2 Porsche that makes 1,000 horsepower. That's another thing. Like, it's originally designed to make 580, so I have to heat cycle it before I lean on it. But you know, the car weighs 1,350 pounds. If I'm leaning on that thing for more than 10 seconds, it's going 150 miles an hour. You know, because it makes so much power. It's such a fast car. But anything, I've kind of operated any of my cars that I've ever had, if they've been strung out a little bit, and you know, new valve train, new heads, new pistons, and it's something that's built up, then I do a proper heat cycle before I lean on it, which only takes a couple minutes. You know, even I had a Corvette once that was a C6 Z06 with a 483 cubic inch small block, heads, valve train, cam, pistons. And instead of making the original 500 horsepower, it made a little over 700, like 740 horsepower. And it was a smoke machine. It would never get traction. It was awesome. Really violent for, you know, like a vehicle that the acceleration was crazy. But yeah, even that's a $25,000 motor as opposed to like the motor in my race truck's like $110,000. You know, it takes 6 months to build, and it's all this stuff incorporated in the build. And
you're scaring Mr. Severn with that kind of numbers.
Well, yeah. I like those numbers in my bank account, but they don't scare me there. They're down. They're safe at that point.
It's cheap compared to Formula One. Formula One to show up to the start line is $25 million.
Holy shit!
You know,
Wow.
I don't even know how much their engine package is, but I'm sure it's $500,000, maybe more. Somebody will have to look that up. But their engine package.
Are you married? Are you a married man? Do you have children?
I am. I'm very. I've got 2 children that I know of. You know, I've been reckless in my time. I'm a friendly guy. No, I've got 2 children. I've got a 15-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter. And I'm
so again,
very happily married.
Do you occasionally take them to school in one of these vehicles or something?
Oh,
like that?
yeah.
So again,
yeah.
I was going for something right there, and I kept thinking, I have no idea if you're married. I have no idea if you have your kids, stuff like that. But I'm thinking, you're taking your kids to school. You got this car or this truck that is capable of, you know, just making all kinds of noise and smoke and the whole 9 yards. And I don't know if your son or daughter go, make the wheels make that noise, Daddy. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, how'd you get into off-road racing? Were you going down the road and you just fuck up and go off? Hey, I like this shit.
No, I always followed it like on TV. I followed like short course racing. Used to watch Brendan Gaughan and Ivan Stewart and Rob McCackern, all the leaders in the sport. Back when I was 10 years old, and you know, they were in the sport long enough to where I got to kick some of their asses when I got in the sport, which is a pretty cool thing. Like to grow up and like rip the cape off of Superman, if that makes sense. You know, to be able to slay these guys, you know, in certain circumstances where I got that opportunity, that was really cool. But yeah, back to the going to the race, taking the kids to the race truck and or to school in the race truck. I've taken Jaden to school once in the race truck because there was probably a mile between. We used to live really close to his elementary school, and I used to take the shortcut through the dirt. It comes up like over a mountain, 2 big mountain ranges, and you could see the mountain ranges from the playground. That was as soon as you got down to, you know, the same level that they were, you know, at that level you could see whatever was off into the distance. And I did a proper heat cycle, you know, before I took off. I had him in his belts and his helmet. I had a bunch of padding up so he could see. And, you know, I wanted him to look, I wasn't thinking properly at the time. I wanted him to look cool so we get a little bit of attention going to school. And when you pull up, you see all these kids playing basketball, they're playing soccer, they're on the, what is the tetherball, and doing all these activities before school starts. You can see that very clearly when you pull up. And when I took him to the race truck, took him to school in the race truck, None of that was happening. They were all like, everything like stopped. They were in shock because the thing's like crazy loud, and it makes so much. It's $1 million piece of equipment that makes dust and rocks. That's a good way of saying it. Kurt Leduc, I got to quote Kurt Leduc in that, who's a famous off-road racer. They're explosive dust and dirt and rocks and everything behind it. Luckily, I was driving into a headwind, so I didn't like completely destroy all of the kids on the playground with dust and make them all dirty. So I made sure that before I went out.
You could have brought your own dust storm with you. Yes.
Yeah, it was following me, but I had like a 6-7 mile an hour, maybe a 7 mile an hour headwind. I was going to make sure that before I did that, because I had the race truck at my house for a few days, and I wanted to do this at some point throughout this week, but I wanted to make sure everything was right. So, the kids didn't get fucked up and hate my son for his dad dusting everybody out.
You make your son the king of the day there. Let everyone go, wow.
Yeah.
It's quite different than when Dan Severn showed up in the Speedos, to walking his kid to school.
Did you do that once?
No. Not me. I don't know if Dan did, but not me.
Yeah, that's funny. That'd be a sight to see.
Yeah. Well, what can I say? I'm just glad that social media wasn't around at that point in time. Those photographs. Okay.
That's awesome. Man, that's awesome. What do you walk around at now as it relates to weight, Dan?
No, basically, I've leaned out over time. It's I weigh probably right around 2.25 right now.
2.25.
So I used to be between 245, 265 for most of my career. Got a little bit chunkier at one point, but then brought it right back down to keep it within that 245, 265. Always had about a 20-pound range, all depending on which buffet I tore up. That within the last couple of days, but right now
how many coupons he had.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Got to dig through the fanny pack there, Don. See where we at there. What coupons good for? But no, it's I just like what you were saying before. I'm looking at the long haul.
Yeah,
I mean, how many more good years can I add to my life? And I simply know that by being proactive, by doing stuff for your body, by doing stuff for your mind. By being proactive, I can add years to my life, but I can add quality of years to my life.
Yeah.
And those are, a lot of people don't understand. There's two different variables.
It's a big
Just
difference.
living longer and sitting around and drooling down your chin, that's not life, So
yeah, I'm
that's where,
like on the same page. I'm trying to get a head start on that for like the last, 3 or 4 years, and I feel better than I did when I was 35 and I'm in my 40s. I've eaten a lot better. I've taken a lot more supplements. My exercise routine's a little bit better as it relates to maintenance of physical performance. And, I'm on the same page. I want to have a heart attack when I'm 110 years old in some kind of experimental romantic endeavor with 4 or 5 girls. That's what I want. That's how I want to go. I don't want to get some kind of sickness, and be ill for 8 to 10 years. I want to be healthy all the way to the scene of the accident, if that makes sense,
Mr. Frye, would you care to share with BJ Dan Severn's dream? Because his was close. His was close to mine.
Yeah. Dan was 128 years old. Is that what you're looking for?
I want to live to be 125, but then at 125, I want my life to be taken tragically and suddenly by a jealous husband.
I like that.
Now, granted,
that's honorable too.
She'll be a much younger woman. She'll be in her 90s.
Yeah. That's honorable too. That's especially for a world class fighter like you guys are the pioneers of MMA. That would be kind of an honorable way to die. To be murdered by a jealous husband, like a 35-year-old jealous husband, and a 95 thrashing on his 22-year-old wife or something.
Well, I think that might be a little bit out of my league at that point in time. I was just looking for that 90-year-old that she's there, And she's like, I can't. She's twisting her nipples, but they're way down around her waist at that point.
Yeah.
She's 90.
Getting caught in a wheelchair spokes,
Yeah, she's tucking her boobs in her socks.
Don Payne's so much more ugly in a picture of all this. I mean, in my mind, but my mind's a little bit warped, over the years. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to get older, but we don't really have to get old. To a certain extent, that statement's, I think.
But a lot of it is a state of the mind, though, how you think about things. I mean, again, it's the same way when you're racing. You got to put yourself in a mindset, and a lot of people don't understand that. The people that have never really competed in anything, or they might have participated. There's one thing to participate, and there's another thing to actually have done it seriously, because there is a physical side to it, and there's a mindset side.
Oh, you get that participation trophy now.
I was just gonna say that. Like, all three of us here are not trying to get the fucking participation ribbon in our prospective sports. We just want to slit everybody's throat. Like all of our competitors. I'm sure you were the same way. Like, I just want to beat the hell out of all of my competitors in embarrassing fashion. I want to be that good, and that's always been my goal. And I'm very lucky to be able to do what I've loved, my whole life, and have the marketing partners that help support the program, like Black Rifle, Coffee, First Form Nutrition, Ultra Wheels, Rigid Industries, King Shocks. I got to shout out all my partners because they've been really good to me.
Do that, but then also, if someone wants to get in contact with you, what's some of your other social media that people can get in contact if they want to book you for an appearance, speaking engagement, or something along those lines? Throw that out there, please, too.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if it's time for that, or we'll still bullshit. I'm having a great time with you guys.
We'll throw it a couple different times.
Yeah, BJ.
Your time's up, kid.
No.
My emails.
So there's some people that may have to. There's some people that may have to get up and go to the restroom or something like that, and then come back again. So it's kind of like going. So we're gonna say this a couple different times.
Okay, nice. Awesome. Thank you. No, I'm on Instagram. I'm at BJ Baldwin. Twitter at BJ Baldwin, well, X now, at BJ Baldwin 97, and Facebook is Ballistic BJ Baldwin. And so, you can shoot me a direct message on Instagram. I'm mostly on there, and I do a pretty good job of checking my direct messages, whenever I get them. I go through quite a few of them. That's kind of like my routine at night, see who's trying to contact me or whatnot, and for any kind of opportunities I may be able to capitalize on, or whoever might want to work with me, which I've had some fantastic opportunities in the past. It's been pretty cool.
There might be some different automobile type of companies out there that they might want to have you use their oil in your trucks, and you just never know who's watching anymore. So it's always good to throw your stuff out there a couple different times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
All right, BJ.
What's that?
Explain this.
That I don't play guitar. No, that's a fun project I did with Savior Equipment. Is a covert, carry case for, like, when you gotta get on the airplane and you're going hunting or something like that, or you're going for, like, I do a lot of combative handgun, combative rifle, 1, 2, and 3 man room clearing classes. I've done sim rounds. I've done a lot of training with law enforcement and military with firearms. So that's kind of cool because it looks like a guitar case. So when you go, to the airport and you check your stuff, and obviously you travel with a gun, you guys probably already know, you put it underneath the plane, you declare it. So that doesn't look like a big rifle case. It's more covert. It doesn't make people that aren't exposed to
nervous.
That doesn't make them nervous. So it looks like a guitar case. Of course, usually I don't have to open my stuff for the airport to look and make sure, like, it's not loaded or anything like that. Every airline is different. It's really wacky.
Right.
And
like most of them could determine it anyways.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, and they've, like, with that, it's just guitar case. I need a orange card, orange declaration card. That's how I say it. So I don't say I have a gun or I need to declare a firearm or anything like that. I just say I need an orange declaration card, and they know what that is because it's the only thing that's orange that's in their drawer. And so they'll give it to me, and I just fill it out, put my phone number on it, and sign my name that it's unloaded, and they paste it on top of the case, and then it goes underneath the plane, and I get it on the other side. Save Your Equipment makes that. They actually gave it to me. I don't have a relationship with them at all. I just, they're my boys, and they make good stuff. They're really cool.
Savior or Savior?
Savior.
How do you spell that?
Like Jesus is your Savior. You're going to quiz me on here. How do you spell it? Savior, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's good stuff.
Weather. You've obviously have had to be in some races where rain, dust storm. Because if you're doing a long race, especially if it's in a western state like Arizona, first time I ever saw a dust storm was here in Arizona. I had never seen one before, being from Michigan, and I thought it was the apocalypse.
Yeah.
At the time, because I saw nothing but this brown wall coming across, and I'm like going, where do I run to?
Yeah, it's like that every time I try to pass another truck. It's like you don't see it. You'll be going 85 miles an hour and not even be able to see the front bumper. You have to know where you're at for a certain period of time and just drive through it until you see the roof of the truck or the spare tires. And then for the most time, we'll bump the back of the truck, and they'll get the point that we're there, and then they'll move over and we'll drive around them. Sometimes I've had to
so like a little nudge, excuse me, and
yeah, a little bit of contact. Sometimes that contact is a little bit abusive. I'm always pretty nice. I usually just bump somebody a little bit. If they don't get over, then I'll lean on them. I'll get up behind them and make contact and hit the throttle, so that they're very aware that I control how you pull over and let me by, if that makes sense. So either
sure.
You let me by because you're upside down and on fire, or you pull the fuck over and I drive around you. And it's very, very hard to pass somebody in my form of motorsports, because there's a certain amount of time where you don't see anything. You're just, things wide open. It's 6,800 RPMs. And my engine builder is going to watch this and be mad. About 6,400 RPMs, and the thing is just singing, and you're going 85, 95 miles an hour through the blinding dust. And for a certain period of time, maybe it's 20 seconds, you don't really see much, and you got to drive through there and make contact with the truck, and they move over and you drive around them. Most of us got a lot of respect for each other, so we do that. I've never tried to run from somebody that has tagged me. I'm always, regardless of who it is, I always let them by because they earned it.
Right.
Sounds like the Helen. Sounds like the Helen Keller school of driving here right now, where you just driving by the Braille method here right now. Touch.
It's actually very close to that without the
do
deaf
I have to
part.
explain that with you, Mr. Frye? You look like you're a deer caught in headlights right now. Who Helen Keller was? Okay.
Oh, I know who Helen Keller was. Yes.
This is also an educational program here as well, but see, a lot of other people, I guarantee you,
that's your first girlfriend.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. You kind of feel like there's ruts in the course, and you can kind of feel through the steering wheel of where they are at certain times, and you could feel if you get on top of them and the thing gets out of shape, you counter steer into it and make sure you don't have any kind of catastrophic event during this action of passing another vehicle. So to a certain extent, you do kind of feel like vehicular braille off of the ruts, and you kind of have to be good with that to penetrate that cloud of dust. You're getting dust for like 6 or 7 minutes during where you're zero visibility for like 1 or 2 seconds, and then you clear like a cloud, and then you go to the next cloud and the next cloud, and then it's just like it's all zero visibility for a certain amount of time. You try and work your way through that. Ideally, race courses would be damp or wet, and you wouldn't have the dust that flies
much
out.
dust.
When it rains,
How many air filters?
But you're off road, so you unless it was a rainy day. I mean, and that's only good for just a little bit, and then it's just still gonna kick up dust.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's been times where it's like that, where the entire race course is where it's like a big storm, and there's the entire race course is damp. Not big storm, but it's raining all throughout this loop. And that's good and bad because you can see the blood in the water, and you could drive right up, behind somebody and drive around them. Everybody has that advantage, so to say, that we normally don't have. So that's nice. On the flip side, it's hard on equipment because the water on the surface provides a little bit more grip. And in our form of racing, we're always breaking powertrain components. It's right. If I want to and I throw a tantrum, I could break my truck in 5 minutes. I could break it in 5 minutes, break an intermediate shaft in the transmission.
My oldest daughter could do that without throwing a tantrum. She's like a black ace, man. She's killed several cars.
Yeah, it's like that where you have to be delicate. And if I'm gonna compare it to MMA as it relates to vehicles, right? This is a vehicle, and you have to, like, certain fighters, I'm sure that you guys have noticed in the past, where they're explosive for round 1 and round 2, and round 3 they're kind of working with what they got because they expended all their energy. Whereas like somebody like Nate Diaz, would just pitter pat around for 2 or 3 rounds, and then round 4 and 5, he's just as fresh as he was the second round.
Yeah.
The Nate Diaz, action of fighting is from his biological vehicle is the same as kind of we do it in our material vehicle of off-road racing. We don't want to drive the thing too hard in areas where the juice is not worth the squeeze, if that makes sense, because they're very fragile. You're going through the most abusive surface and environment that any motorsports vehicle could travel across. 3-4 foot bumps one after another for 300 miles. It's very abusive. You see a lot of wheel speed. You get flats here and there. Shocks overheat at times. And the drivetrain is the weakest link because you could burn up a converter or, throw a ring gear or something, mess up some clutches in the transmission. So you got to be relatively gentle with it drive within 94% of its ability until it's time to really be aggressive. And then you can go 101, 102% of its ability and maintain the equipment for drive it at the highest level for 3 or 4 minutes, before you see a converter flash where the converter's now 315 degrees and the clutches are slipping. If you beat on it too hard, it will have a detrimental effect. You can't finish first unless you first finish. That's a common saying in off-road racing because we have so many mechanical difficulties in our sport because it's so abusive.
So can your pit crew read your off the computer, read your vehicle while you're going down the road?
They can't. They rely on my navigator for information like that. And we're so familiar with the system, like in terms of the vehicle, we know where we're going to build converter heat, right? So converter is like when in an automatic car, you put it in drive and the thing wants to go forward. The converter is making that happen. It's making it want to turn the tires. It kind of acts like to a certain extent, a clutch. Instead of working off of friction, it's working off hydraulic friction. So if you lean on it too hard and in a certain area where the converter is not completely locked up and you're, one on your powertrain power input and your drivetrain power input, then you will build more heat in the transmission, if that makes sense. And the converter in an a manual valve body, manually operated automatic transmission acts like a shock absorber because it's not locked, locked like a clutch. It's locked up hydraulically in the transmission. So you have it's not locked up, but there's friction built up hydraulically. So you have a certain amount of cushion because you got to remember these tires are 130 pounds and they're bouncing off the ground, spinning from acceleration in the air and then recontacting with the bump in front of it. Right. So it's constantly getting no traction all the traction, no traction, all the traction, no traction, all the traction, 8 times a second when you're going really fast through the bumps. So, being able to monitor all those systems as a navigator is a job in addition to kind of giving me a little bit of intelligence as it relates to what hazards are coming up. And we have kind of a hybrid style note system where it calls out something similar to rally stuff. We got trauma chewing on one of your legs?
No, he's being a good boy.
Oh, okay. I was hearing something.
No.
Yeah. You got any dogs? You got any dogs, Dan? Yeah.
No, he's got a rat that barks.
A rat that barks.
Yeah.
Oh my.
It identifies as a dog sometimes.
Oh yeah, it's 2023.
Yeah.
How crazy is it? Like everything that's going on. I would have never
Fucking
imagined,
insane.
especially the school system.
Yeah, it's stupid. It's really
fucking
stupid.
retarded.
Yeah.
And you get in trouble for saying retarded now.
Yeah.
Like that's so wild that there's certain things that you absolutely cannot say. And I say what the fuck I want. I'm sure you guys too. But like the school system, you see this stuff with like drag queen story hour. My son's good. He's good to go. He's 15, so he's got like a couple more years of high school, and he's not really exposed to this like maybe my daughter would be. My daughter's homeschooled. So,
really? She never been to the school system at all, just homeschooled the whole time?
Just homeschooled. My wife does an incredible job with her. She's really, really smart. I think in like, the test where you find out how smart or dumb your kid is, right? And it's, out of
the Severn skill set test.
Yeah, those will be first as the SAT scores there, Mr. Frye. Okay.
Yeah.
SAT scores. Okay. Yeah. S stands for Severn. Okay. SAT. Severn achievement testing. Okay. There you go.
Okay.
SAT. Boy,
No,
that was pretty fast now, wasn't there?
Very good.
That was
Give
good.
me that one. The kudos.
No, my daughter Zoe is she's really smart. She's like out of 26,813, she tested like, I think she was 134. She was like 134 out of that large number. So my wife does a good job. I got a great relationship with my wife because I live with my girlfriend. That's how it works. It's complicated. A lot of stuff going on over here.
As long as it works for you, that's all that matters. As long as it works for you.
We're working on it. So.
Well, I mean, if you want, you can always ask Mr. Frye for some advice, but I think it always comes out to one major line. And what is that there, Mr. Frye?
Every woman's
a recommendation.
Every woman's a whore except for your mother.
No. You always said
have to get
a
bleeped
prenup.
out.
Come on there, Mr. Frye. It's always get a prenup.
Get a prenup. That's right.
We get a prenup. That's what you said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, I got to start holding up cue cards for you now.
Yeah. You're going too fast for me, Severn.
Yeah, well, that's what I get for doubling down on my Geritol tonight.
Yeah. I got a prenup, and it's, government's too involved in marriage of what the law is, to a certain extent. Like I'm down to, be with this person forever. And, I want to take care of you. I want to make sure you're good to go as long as you take care of me and stuff like that. So it doesn't have to be
pants
like,
on, sweetheart.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like set up to where like if you don't have this agreement, this prenuptial agreement, she gets half your shit. So she can go
insane.
She can go sleep with the pool guy and the gardener and your best friend. And
then
if
take
it doesn't
your
work
money.
out, she takes all your stuff. You take your hot rod that you have in the garage. You have a 1986 Camaro with a 671 supercharger on it. It's cherry red, and she just cuts it in half.
Right.
Financially, you have to sell it. Yeah. A lot of guys are in that position.
Oh, it's bullshit. Well, how'd your first race go for you, Berner?
My first race was in 1997. I started when I was very young, and
12.
12. Thanks, brother. No, I was in a class 10 car. It was like a VW type suspension on something that didn't look like a VW. It looked like a tube chassis, bug. or buggy. And I ended up getting sixth, which sucks because my son just started racing like 6 months ago, and his first race out, he won. Which is like, that's like, what the hell?
Which you're proud of, but he won't let you forget. No.
Yeah, I'm proud of him, but he won't let me forget. It took me 6 years to win my first race. Nice part about it is that like he won his first race, and my heat for the trucks, he was in UTV. My heat for the trucks was later on in the day, and I ended up winning that race as well. We won. It was a 2-day race. He won the first and second day, and I won the first and second day as well, which was pretty cool. Yeah. So that's a good moment. Kids are.
I think that's all we have in our careers are those moments in time.
Yeah,
it's a grind, it's work, but then you have those moments that they'll last. Those are the lasting memories, and actually thought as like moments in time.
Yeah, they're tattooed and cognitively tattooed in you, where you can always access those. It's one of my happiest moments in my career was racing with my son for his first race. That was very special, especially doing as well as he did. That was really cool.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, you're inside the same vehicle with him, or you were part of the pit crew, or
no? He's not certified on that piece of equipment yet. he's on
okay.
He was in like a UTV, like a Polaris Razor. I had one that he was racing on, that he races, from time to time. And then, I'm not ready to give him the keys to my $1 million race truck.
No. That's again, he's got to earn his reward.
He's got to earn it. It costs $150,000 to show up to the start line and that thing, because everything comes apart, after every race. My truck's only together like 22 days out of the year. So it's constantly, after every race, the motor comes out, powertrain comes out, gear sets, driveline, transmission, all the shocks come off, all the suspension comes off, everything gets checked and, mag checked for cracks throughout the chassis. All the coolers get flushed and they get checked for obstructions in the cooling system. All the wiring and plumbing gets checked. Make sure there's nothing that's wearing out in the wiring that could cause some kind of catastrophic failure as it relates to, ignition or timing or anything like that, or GPS. And fuel cell gets checked. Like everything on the vehicle gets checked. It takes about 6-7 weeks for it to be completely disassembled and then completely reassembled. If you were to look at my truck right now, it looks like a jungle gym. Yeah. It looks like a very small jungle gym that, that kids can't fit in most compartments. It's triangled, structurally triangled with 4130 chromoly. That's probably 300% stronger than mild steel. It's 120 wall, 2-inch. And like I said, everything's triangulated. So it's like 150 times stronger than like a regular production vehicle. Like a diesel. Yeah. So
how many people are normally on a crew? Because I'm running the numbers here right now, because there's no retirement package in your career. You have to do it. You have to do it on, again, the same way as in for a fighter. At the same time, you have to do well, and then hopefully with whatever you saved and stuff like that. I mean, so hopefully you did save some. Hopefully you invested some, so that one day when you are at that ripe old age, it's like you're not eating, dog food,
MREs or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, that's where I wonder how many people are on this crew that all depend upon, because it basically all depends upon you. I mean, they're invested in all their work, stuff like this, so that you have to win. You've got to bring home the bacon so that everyone can eat,
Yeah. I mean, collectively, as relates to all different types of people responsible for certain components on the truck, there's probably 60 guys. And if
how many?
It's probably 60 people that are involved, like
60?
Total. Yeah, but a lot of people that I refer to as teammates, they also help other teams. Like my engine package guy, Ray Dugans, he does Dugans Racing Engines, and he does engine packages for all different competitors in my class. anybody that runs a big block or a big or small block V8, he does their engine packages. There's like 3 other motor builders in my form of motorsports. And so he takes care of me. I refer to him as a teammate. He's responsible for a lot of the success that I've had with all the Clydesdales that he's been able to stuff under the hood. And then I've got a powertrain guy. He does, transmission converter rebuilds, gear sets. Then I got a suspension development guy, Todd from SDG suspension development. And then I got like my main crew of pit guys that I have, which is probably 25 guys. I've got helicopter support, which there's 3 people in the helicopter. One of them is a filmer, pilot, and then somebody that's a director of communications that relay different places as it relates to how I am on corrected time versus another vehicle.
How many drivers have a helicopter?
All of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, all of them. There might be a few.
There's a race up there too, then. Huh?
Yeah, there might be a few of them without helicopters, but all the guys that I race with that are fierce competitors, world champion, world class drivers, they all have helicopters. It's not only is it for intelligence, but it's also a safety thing. Like if the motorcycles drive, they start, 3 or 4 hours ahead of us. So, and they're faster than us, like going into corners and leaving corners because they accelerate a lot better, but they can't go through the bumps near as fast as we do. I know I'll get some hate from the motorcycle guys in the comments, but that's okay. I love you guys. I always take good care of you. I haven't ran over a motorcycle guy yet. I've ran over motorcycles, but not on purpose.
I know you put that word in there, yet.
Yeah, yet. You got to stay out of our way. If we catch you, you got to pull over. But no, all the pro guys, we never see those guys. They're very, very fast. But for safety, if there's a motorcycle guy up front, they'll have the helicopter come in and swoop the motorcycle guy so that he knows that there's a truck behind him, and he can make adjustments accordingly to make sure we don't make contact. And that's a huge plus that you have to have on a tier 1 off-road racing team, truck team like I run, which is I could not have the success that I've had throughout my career or anywhere in the future without a helicopter. I absolutely need a helicopter, not just for safety reasons, but for competitive reasons because we start one at a time, 30 seconds apart, sometimes a minute apart. So I could be 20th. I could start 20th and I could finish dead last 19 minutes in front of everybody on corrected time. So I can win the race from the back by finishing in an overall quicker time than some of the other competitors.
Sure, the first person came in. Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes total
exactly.
sense.
Exactly.
All right,
gentlemen, I hate to interrupt.
Oh.
I have to bow out. Mrs. Beast has warned me that dinner is waiting. Now, I'm a man that wants to know he could still sleep in the same house and stuff like that. So I've swallowed my pride here, and I'll say that I must bid you adieu. But please carry on in your manly ways. And BJ, it has been a real pleasure really to learn something more about people that are in this off-road, long endurance type of driving. I've witnessed it before on television. I've been to a couple of tracks just to see it sparingly, but I know that there are so many different similarities, especially just hear you talk of the preparation of that body, of that mind, and of mostly all the competitive spirit.
Thanks, brother.
We all share. So
I
bid you gentlemen adieu. Finish on there, Mr. Frye.
See you, sissy.
Hopefully I will see you again there, Mr. Baldwin, at some point.
I've idolized, the guy for a long time, both you and him, just for what he's done, for what both of you have done for the sport.
Yeah, he's a fucking animal.
Yeah, this shit is not fucking boring. It is not fucking boring.
Right.
And that's because of the seed that you planted in the sport,
Yeah. He changed the game.
Who's like into, I know there's some karate buffs out there and stuff like that, some taekwondo buffs and stuff, but that shit is invisible.
Yeah.
That is invisible. Everybody that's
Who's the biggest
an adult,
champs, the most champ background in all of UFC history.
Yeah, 100%. Like, everybody that has been in a physical altercation knows that it doesn't matter how black your fucking belt is. None of that shit applies unless you combine everything that works, that you know works because you've seen it on this platform of unlimited, empty-handed physical combat. And so in order to take care of yourself, should you ever find yourself in danger at a bar or nightclub or stuff like that, you should have some existing knowledge of boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, submissions, takedowns, and stuff like that. You guys paved the way for that. I mean, I said it in my IG Live video. I was fucking stoked to be here. I'm fucking super excited that my truck is fucking parked outside. You guys fed me tacos, which were bomb as fuck, to be here and is awesome because you guys are legend. And you gave us, Conor McGregor. Where do you think he's an asshole or not? You gave us Conor.
Yeah.
You gave us Adesanya. You gave us all these fucking dudes that do really well. Ideally, from the beginning, it should have been like boxing, where they get $10 million, to fight. And I'm Dana White's like a brother of mine, so I see where he's coming from as it relates to employing,
as a business,
60 different fighters instead of 4.
As a business model, he's doing it correctly,
yeah.
But when you're on the opposite end, getting the check, you want it to be bigger.
Well, you look at boxers, right?
Right, yeah.
Why am I not getting $10 million?
Yeah, exactly.
You wouldn't be able to fight if you were getting $10 million. Right. At the end of the day, if he had to pay, $500 million every time there was a show, there would be no UFC. There would be no ability to employ so many people in combat sports. So I get where he's coming from with that. But it's getting better. It's getting better and better and better.
Obviously, pays getting better.
And it's getting better because of them, him and the Fertitta brothers.
Yeah.
So that's rad to see.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the shadow for like a long time. I used to train at the UFC gym when I was like in my 20s.
You've known Dana for a long time, right? Like
a long time.
Like he trained you when you first started like training to fight.
Right? He was like my boxing coach.
Wow.
And
how long ago was this? Like when did you first meet him?
This was when I was 21. No, when I was 18.
Wow.
So this is like 99, right? This is a minute ago. And I was very receptive to what he had to say. Like, I don't know what your life path has been. Was there any point in your life, maybe when you were 2, were you kind of a wimp? I was a wimp till I was like 16. I would get picked on in school and stuff like that. And then I started hanging out with, kids that were really tough kids.
Yeah.
And I started to be exposed to low-level violence, like at parties and stuff like that, fist fights and stuff. And I became a little bit more hardened compared to as soft as I was. And then I met Dana through my dad's wife. She was doing some physical training and boxing and stuff like that with him, just to like get in shape. She introduced me to him. My dad and her introduced me to him, and I was trying to become a more capable and more confident human being at the time, going from somebody that was really, really soft, like easily be able to get picked on, in high school, to somebody that, could defend himself. And obviously I'm a drastic overcompensation for that bullshit back in the day. Like 20 years of jiu-jitsu, boxing, fucking defensive combat pistol classes.
Fuck with me now, motherfucker.
Yeah. But he had a lot of faith in me. I trained with him for probably 3 months, and he was telling me, I'm going to send you to Tough Man in 6 months, and you're going to knock everybody out in the heavyweight division. Like, he had that much faith in me until, I sparred. I didn't have that much faith in myself, and turns out I was fistophobic. Like, I didn't like get punched in the face. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Not like
I was
Don.
not down for that.
Don needs to get punched a few times.
I was just like a regular person that was interested in boxing. Yeah. That's how I received getting tagged in the face. It wasn't like you just eat that shit for breakfast. You were that tough. I wasn't that tough. Not even remotely
Well,
close.
most people don't enjoy getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
not like well, with that fucking mustache, it's like a fucking bulletproof
it's like
vest.
a barrier. Yeah. No, I
It's like a fucking foreplay.
yeah.
I got pissed.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, Don's a freaking different breed. Like I said, he liked to get punched in the face. That like got him going in his fights.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I could see how that could be a thing because there were certain moments where that kind of got me activated. You know, I've been in a handful of bar fights.
Yeah, the first fight,
high school fights.
I got into fight that was at school. You know, when you're a kid talking shit, you know, and your adrenaline's going, and the guy hit me, and that was like, I got an older brother who used to beat the shit out of me, and that kid did not hit nearly as hard as my brother.
Yeah.
Like it hit me. And
yeah. So you just walked through that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was like he hit me, and then that was a different, like that fear went away of like, oh, that's all he's got. I was like, okay, I could do this, you know. And then thinking I could, for me, growing up, getting beat up, like knocked out by my brother and his friends, and they used to torture us, you know. And just what's what happens when you're a kid. It's part of life,
Yeah.
You know. And it prepared me for the first fight I got into, not even really knowing it, you know. Just it's like, oh, I was scared shitless. You know, when it first was going down, I was like, you know, you're as a kid, oh, you punch me, I'll punch you first, blah, blah, blah. And then finally it happens, and I was like, okay, I can do this. Let's go. You know,
Yeah.
and that's a mind fuck on someone too, when you give them your best shot and they're still standing there in front of you.
And they just take it like
Yeah,
it's not a
you're
big
like,
deal.
You're like, oh no.
Yeah.
So yeah, because that's been like it's been on both ends of it, where I've taken it, and then where I've delivered a punch, and then the guy's just still there, and you're like, oh fuck.
Or it's even worse. Like whenever I would spar Dana, like I couldn't put my hands on him.
Oh yeah.
He was so elusive. You know, he's so evasive, I should say. I hit him one time very clean and very good.
Yeah.
Out of all the times we sparred, and we weren't sparring every day. I probably sparred Dana like maybe 10 times, and I've sparred other people. You know, from professional heavyweight fighters I've sparred, they're just toying with me, to mostly like people that were trying to learn boxing that you couldn't really bomb on. You know what I'm saying? So everybody in between, you know, and I was by no means an exceptional novice boxer, but for somebody that wanted to be a better version of himself and be able to defend himself, like bar fights at that time, bar fights were happening all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Nightclub fights were happening all the time. I was, he helped develop that side of me as a man that I was lacking. And then later on, you know, he introduced me to jiu-jitsu because I got in a fight with 3 guys and there was only 2 of us. So I had 2 guys at the same time and I got choked. And I went, you know, that Monday, I was getting soccer kicked in the head and choked. And that Monday, I went to him, and it was a year after they got the UFC. And I was like, dude, just show me how to like get out of a choke. And yeah, and he was like, I don't think you really got choked if you got choked for 30 seconds. I was like, you don't understand. I felt like I was gonna die. And he's like, no. And then he set me down and like put me in an RNC for 1 second.
How fast? Yeah.
And I was coughing for like, you know, I was coughing for like a minute because I had that you know, vaginal skin tissue on my neck, you know, so it's like now, you know, anybody chokes me, it's a lot of effort, just like any other jiu-jitsu practitioner. But back then, obviously I was very fragile and I never wrestled. I wish I wrestled in high school, you know, cause even in my better days when I had really good no-gi game, like Gray Maynard, you know, Gray Maynard is fought in UFC for quite a while. I like taught Gray jiu-jitsu for like a fucking week, like a week. And then he was hard to deal with. And I had already been doing jiu-jitsu for 5 years. And then within a month, he was making all of the other fighters that were in that at Cobra Kai jiu-jitsu, he was making them all mad because he only been showed up for like a month, and he would catch those guys, and before you know it, he was he was kind of dominating most of the guys in the room, you know. But yeah, Dana introduced me to boxing and he introduced me to jiu-jitsu.
So you're saying Dana was saying he wanted you to get into fighting. So like, did you just knew you always wanted to be a racer?
Yeah, well, Dana didn't understand that I wasn't like him. Like, you can hit that guy with like a 10-pound. Most people don't know how tough Dana is. You can hit him with a 10-pound weight in his face. And, you know, it's out of all the sparring that I've done when I was into boxing, when I was younger, like, he was the least responsive to somebody that I would hit clean and hard and like turn your hand over really good in their face. But yeah, he thought I would do really good in tough man competition. And then, you know, once he sparred me, he's like, maybe he's not the, you know, the guy, good hands, but you know, he doesn't like getting punched that much, which most people don't. So I'm all right with that. But, and then introduced me to jiu-jitsu. As relates to racing, yeah, I've always been into motorsports. Drag racing, a little bit of NASCAR, not much when I was younger, but off-road racing was the best because it had so many different dimensions of the sport, you know. So, yeah, I always thought that was really cool.
So what was it like for your first victory, your first time you won the Baja?
My first victory was in Laughlin. It was a race at the Laughlin Desert Challenge, which was a very well-known score race at the time. Still is, but score doesn't have it anymore. My first victory in Baja was the Baja 500, and that was in 2008. It's a 9.5-hour race, you know, for the finishing car, and I won by like 11 seconds. So it was very, very close. After 9.5 hours of battling, 9 hours and 14 minutes and 47 seconds.
And then, so how long do you go with having to stop, like a pit stop or like what maintenance?
So to give you an example, like a brutal example that would be shocking, at the 1,000, I won the 1,000, 2012 and 2013. I'm still the only person to drive the entire distance of the Baja 1000 and win it two consecutive years in a row. Almost all of the teams have 2 drivers, sometimes 3 drivers. I drove the entire distance in 2012 and 2013 and won 2 consecutive years, which has never been done before. But to give you an example, like, you know, at the Peninsula race, it's 1,167 miles. We have to stop 5 times for fuel. So we get a break then. Fuel and tires takes 28 seconds. So cumulatively, that's, you know, a little over 2 minutes over the course of 20 hours.
Fill up your tank and then release your tank?
Oh, yeah. Like bowel function and consumption of calories and stuff like that.
As fast as you can. And then...
well, I never have to go to the bathroom. I front load it with Pepto-Bismol, half a dose of Pepto-Bismol first thing in the morning.
Oh shit.
And I'm very well hydrated. So, you know, if you don't have that problem where you have, you know, you're sick, you got stomach flu, you got diarrhea or something like that, you take it like a dose and then it helps you out. Okay. And it firms everything up. When you don't have any problem with that and you take like half a dose, you don't have to go to the bathroom, number 2 at least, for, you know, a good 18 hours minimum, you know, minimum. And
there you go. Here
it held off for
next road trip done.
Hours.
Pepto-Bismol.
Yeah. But hydration, I have a helmet that not only does it have fresh air pump that circulates fresh air, so you're in your own atmosphere no matter how dusty it is. And then it's got a drinker that goes in there that's operated off of a button in the steering wheel. So when I get thirsty, I push a button and it comes up around my microphone and shoots water in my mouth. And that's how I hydrate. I take about 8 gulps of compressed oral, like, structure your mouth where the pads come in right here from the helmet. Compressed rehydration is like 8 gulps, ends up being what I would normally need. And then anything in addition to that, as I desire, if I feel a little bit thirsty, I'll take a drink. But I usually do 8 gulps every 42 minutes, I think we figured out. Kit Cope wrote my diet plan about 10 years ago. He's a 7-time world champion kickboxer. He's helped me a lot in racing and specifically human performance, diet, hydration, and getting prepared physically and cognitively and response time. He's helped improve a lot of that. He's had some exercises for me when I used to work with him. So he's been good for my program over the years.
Wow, that's impressive. That's freaking. So just to be able to go that long, you said you did both of them back to back. No, and so most people at least have what, 2 drivers minimum. Sometimes have
minimum 2 drivers. Some of them have 3 drivers.
Wow, that's fucking insane.
Yeah,
you're a fucking monster, dude.
Thanks.
So you don't have water in that thing. You got that Black Rifle coffee in there, huh? You just take a little shot instead of
no, in the drinker
keeps you going.
I would have coffee later on in the day for the 1,000, but I'm trying to preserve myself for some of the shorter races and the hotter temperatures, and the diuretics don't work so well in situations like that. But from a gradual stimulant to a certain extent, coffee actually definitely works really, really well as long as you're appropriately hydrated and it's later on in the day, because race finishes at 7 o'clock in the morning, starts at 10:30 a.m. the previous day.
Wow. So you were the only person to do that still? Has anyone ever done that? But
nobody's ever in the trophy truck division. Nobody's ever won it 2 years in a row and driven the entire distance, which doesn't sound like shit. It's not like you had like a 7-year record. It's like 2 years. It's not, but consecutively, nobody's done it back to back.
That's crazy. We know what's the longest someone else has gone like without to almost finish.
Oh, there's people that have won it driving the entire distance in the past, but not consecutively. And there's people that drive the entire distance every year, but they're on a different program. Like, I don't care to drive the entire distance to finish the Baja 1000. I do not care at all about that. I that's hard work. That's a lot of effort for sure. But I did not drive the entire distance solo or Ironman or whatever you want to call it. I didn't Ironman the entire distance because I wanted that accomplishment of like being able to
your participation.
Yeah,
trophy.
exactly. Right back to the participation driven subject. Yeah, I didn't want to do that just to say that I did that. No. I was there to cut fucking throats. I drove the entire distance because I knew that I know my truck better than anybody else. And at the time, there's nobody else on my level that was acceptable as an intermediate competitor that would like there's been years where I've driven 400 miles, they drive 200 miles. I get out, they drive 200 miles, and then I get back in and drive the next 300 miles. There's been years that I've done that. It's never worked that well.
How long does it take them to do the 200?
It depends on the section. It could take 5 hours. It could take 8 hours.
You get a rest.
Yeah, so I get a little bit of rest.
Do you helicopter to the next spot?
No, you can't fly helicopters at night in Mexico because of the drugs that they smoke. Drug dealers do it anyways. It's not like they have that solved.
You can't fly helicopters.
Yeah, we can't.
That's for the drug dealers.
Yeah, you see military helicopters flying in Baja all the time at night, but those are the only ones that get to fly. I will take the pavement on a chase truck and I'll get driven to the next location.
It's crazy.
So, but yeah, I get to rest a little bit, but the highway is like a really dangerous place in Baja. Every corner you'll see a car that they never retrieved from a fatal accident. It's they're down the peninsula. There'll be 5 or 6 cars that are still off the side of the highway because they didn't collect them, and there's crosses everywhere. They need a better driver education system down there, and I think that would help them out a lot. But I love Baja. Baja's got the most awesome people.
Well, that even trips me out, just how close with you guys at the Baja race, how close the fans are to the turns, and you guys hauling ass over these hills. Like, that's a lot of trust that these guys, that just blows my mind that they stand that close to watch this.
Yes. It's not a proper understanding of the level of control that we have. Like, we're not in control 100%. I think if they knew what it was like to go through there, they wouldn't be that close to the race course. But, most Baja fans, most of the Mexican spectators down there, they have a lot of respect for the racetrack. But there are some spectators and fans that get a little too close, and I'll be driving down the race course at 75 miles an hour going through big ass bumps, and you won't be able to see the end of the race course because there'll be people in the race course, just like parting seas when you go through. And I try and that's in certain areas where it's really crowded. I try and replicate the style and actions of somebody that's had a fifth of Jack Daniels when I come through there. So I look like I'm more out of control than I actually am. Like, I'll get the truck sliding sideways a little bit and bouncing around a little bit more. And that seems to be a performance increasing behavior because they're out of the way sooner than they were the truck behind me or the truck in front of me, if that makes sense. Because it looks like, if they are there for as long as they were before, it's not going to be safe. And that's helped me, I look like a little bit of a maniac when I'm behind the wheel in this crowd, even though I'm completely under control. So that's helped.
So obviously you've done some long ass runs. So what's the shortest race you've ever been in where something freaking happened and you just couldn't go any farther?
I've gone 100 yards before and lost a motor. It's terrible. It's heartbreaking.
What happened?
You lost the motor, you dumb.
Yeah.
Well, duh. What did something happen? No comprende.
It threw rod through the side of the block. It was just a detonation error, a timing error in the detonation of piston 4, I think, in my VW powered class 10 car. When I first started racing, it was very early in my career.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I'm sure. Like I said, I'm sure shit like that happens all the time to people.
Yeah, it's the most abusive form of motorsports there is.
Yeah.
And, currently.
Yeah, I'm sure. So you talked about it earlier, just how modified.
When are you gonna do Puerto Rico again, man? That was awesome.
Puerto Rico again?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean Cuba? Yeah.
Yeah, going through the fucking streets. That was awesome.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, that was a fun project to work on. That's the first major motion picture, American motion picture, to come out of Cuba since 1961. Wow. Yeah, we beat Fast 8 or something like that. One of the Fast and Furious movies. We beat that by like 2 or 3 weeks. So it's a cool little feather to put in my hat.
Yeah.
Being first motion picture to come out of Cuba in 40 years.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That was sweet.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Oh fuck! I gotta get home. I gotta fly out tomorrow.
All right. Well,
I'm fucked up.
Well, thanks for having me, brother.
Timing's all fucked up.
Oh, that's all right.
well, we appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, brother.
Thank you,
it's
man.
always an honor and privilege
Thank
to be
you,
in your
man.
presence. This is super rad. So
I'll see
thank
you this
very
weekend.
much.
I hope, man.
Yeah, hell yeah, I'll be there.
All right, good.
I'll be there. I'll see you there.
Good. Let's go out.
Stay rad.
Thank you for watching another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity. You better like, subscribe, and share, or I'm going to come to your house.